With one of the most fascinating heavyweight fights of all time coming up, I think this is a great time to analyze the infamous sparring sessions between Francis Ngannou and Ciryl Gane, who are both looking to unify the heavyweight title on January 22nd, and the former training partner element about the fight makes it very different for both fighters here. They can either be more confident against the other or less confident going into this. And there are some few important key factors to look at in these sparring sessions. Now we do have to note, this is only sparring. It's not a guarantee this is how the fight is going to play out. They show some of their skills that they usually show in fights, and it will show some fundamental advantages over each other's style, but a fight has so many more elements compared to sparring that it could be exactly like this, or it could be completely different. Now what we get to see is, Ciryl Gane is mostly having his way with Francis Ngannou. He's showing his superior technique, he's showing to be much faster, better footwork, and better understanding of where to be on the mat. He would reverse a position many times, circle around Ngannou's aggression, and able to pretty easily keep Ngannou close to the wall. This came from even the takedown attempts that Francis Ngannou tried on Ciryl Gane. Ciryl Gane always reversed the position using his underhook, but also to note here, he does have shoes on, which is going to create better traction and give him a bit of an advantage, not only in the wrestling, but also when he's moving around on the mats. One big difference between the two fighters is that Francis Ngannou will commonly overextend on a lot of his punches, especially when he's throwing his right hand. You notice he always turns his right shoulder into the punch and overextending on his stance. This almost never happens with Ciryl Gane. And at different moments, Ciryl Gane would just use his right hand in the southpaw stance, knowing that he is a switch fighter. He will fight orthodox or southpaw almost equally, and only countering Ngannou with his right hand, using his left hand only for defense to block punches. I do suspect him to do this in the fight with Francis Ngannou as well. These kind of exchanges would oftentimes happen inside the pocket or in somewhat close range, where Ciryl Gane would actually march Ngannou down, landing right jabs, right hooks, while also pulling on Ngannou's punches. He knows for himself not to overextend against someone as powerful as Ngannou. He never wants to give that kind of opening. He wants to make this as frustrating as possible for Ngannou. Therefore, popping shots out at his face, using quick punches instead of power punches. But if that opening does present itself, and the opening's so big for Gane that he's confident he can land the power punches, he will do that as well, just like he showed here. And here is the number one most important thing that Ciryl Gane showed here against Ngannou that can absolutely be a huge disturbance in the fight. Ciryl Gane will usually start it off his right hand, no matter what stance that he's in. But of course, in the southpaw stance, it's going to be more of a jab or a right hook. In orthodox, it's usually like a right hook or a right overhand. Now these shots are to get Ngannou to lean away, pull back on it, and also trigger out that check left hook, knowing that's one of Ngannou's best counter punches. Is the same shot that knocked out Stipe Miocic, set up the knockout against Andrei Arlovski and JDS. By making Ngannou lean back away from these punches, it's forcing weight on the back foot, meaning that he can only move his lead foot. What that means is he's going to need to take 2 steps to face Ciryl Gane, as Gane is looking to duck and weave under the left hook to his right side, which is going to be on the outside of Ngannou's lead foot. So Ngannou now has to move his lead foot in order to move his back foot, but that's way too many steps before Ciryl Gane lands a punch on you. And it happened every single time. Multiple of these exact same exchanges, Ciryl Gane was able to land a left hook while stepping on the outside foot. This left hook is not only to cause damage, is also used as a guide for Gane's right hand, as in the meantime, Ngannou is trying to turn to face him. Again, he has to take those 2 steps in order to do that. And I'm pretty sure Ciryl Gane is going to look to do this in the fight as well. It was so successful in sparring against Ngannou, and knowing that Ngannou still today, just like he did against Stipe Miocic in his last fight, he always pulls back, leans away from punches in order to land his check left hook. This is an excellent weapon that can still work on Ngannou today. And this is the main thing to spot in these sparring sessions on Ciryl Gane's side, but he did show some other stuff. Body shots. For the majority of the time, he was staying southpaw, and he would use that outside foot advantage for other things. In the heavyweight division, this sort of outside step is way more effective because generally the heavyweights that Gane is going to fight are less technical than the majority of the UFC roster. In comparison, they're a lot more powerful, a lot more dangerous for that aspect, but they could be a lot less technical to deal with this outside step. So what he would do against Ngannou to create a safe path to the body, he would simply swipe Ngannou's lead hand away, the hand for the check left hook, and just extend a left straight to the body. Simple technique that's extremely efficient. So you can kind of see what Gane is doing when he's advancing on Ngannou. He's keeping his eyes on the left hand, not Ngannou's right so much. He's laser focused on eliminating the lead hand and not the rear hand, mainly because he's confident in his speed advantage to get away from the power punch rather than the lead punch, which is generally going to be faster than your power hand. But it was a bit of a mistake in the sparring sessions because for Francis Ngannou, the main thing going for him here was that he was landing uppercuts. Whether he's going to be faking a left hook and getting Ciryl Gane to duck, because again, when Gane sees that left hook, he wants to duck under it. And Ngannou actually plays him here and intercepts his head movement with an uppercut. This happened multiple times in these sparring sessions. And not only that, even in the clinch, Ngannou will pull his head down and uppercut him. Very similar to what happened when Ciryl Gane fought Alexander Volkov. In Ciryl Gane's career so far, some of the biggest punches he got hit by were uppercuts in close range. Because not only is he going to duck against that left hook, generally he likes to duck when he's under fire, pick his hands up, tighten up his guard, and push into the opponent. And it's scary with Ngannou because Ngannou can be pretty precise with his uppercuts. I think that's one of the main things going for Ngannou in the fight against Ciryl Gane. But even though Gane has shown in the past to duck his head against aggression, or just if he feels any kind of danger in close range, he has tightened this up. And he showed it in his last fight with Derrick Lewis. Derrick Lewis did the same exact thing. He threw out a left hook and Gane ducked it. But Derrick Lewis quickly transitioned his left hook into a single collar, pulling Gane's head down while he's looking to land an uppercut. But look at Ciryl Gane's guard. This is different. He lets go of his right guard and puts all of his focus on defending his left side. He's learned from these sparring sessions with Francis Ngannou and from some of his fights where he got tagged by this uppercut before. And in that sequence of Derrick Lewis, him actually blocking the punch like this allowed him to drop Derrick Lewis with a check right hook. And that can absolutely land against Francis Ngannou as well. Ngannou was throwing out feints to create openings, fake like he's going to throw a jab, and he sees Ngannou's reaction for a counter left uppercut. Knowing that's what's going to be Ngannou's counter punch, he was extremely confident to just throw out the jab and land it. He knew that left uppercut was not going to land on him before he lands his jab, showing the massive speed difference between the two. And there were multiple times where Ngannou was pretty sloppy. He was just walking forward, and actually reminded me of what he did in the first Stipe fight. But these days, Francis Ngannou is much more technical. He's a lot more savvy in the octagon, and he's not going to really fall into these kind of things unless he gets tired. He might revert himself back to this, and that's where things can be trouble for Ngannou. Another great thing to see from Ngannou though is leg kicks. Ciryl Gane likes to move around the cage, and even though he's pretty good at checking kicks at times, Ngannou was able to land some really good leg kicks on Gane. And if he goes into the fight landing those early, he could slow down his opponent's movement, which is going to allow him to target his power punches a lot easier. Now, as you can see, Ciryl Gane was definitely the better technical fighter, and we could say confidently that he's going to be more technical in the fight as well. But the thing about the heavyweight division, sometimes the more skilled and technical fighter loses to the power puncher. Francis Ngannou only needs a few openings to end this. His power is so terrifying. Even if he's getting tagged for like 2 to 3 rounds, he's losing rounds by 10-8. He can't even find the target or anything. One moment of lapse of focus, or Ngannou just times one thing perfectly, it's over. Ciryl Gane might wake up gazing at the ceiling. That's all it takes with Francis Ngannou.